get some feedback.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome out here to the Henderson Civic Center. It's our Candidates Forum. It's brought to you by the Henderson Area Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Again, want to welcome you all to the Candidate Forum hosted by the Henderson Area Chamber of Commerce and KWRD Radio. If you would stand, I'm going to go ahead and say a word of prayer, and then we'll say our pledges. Father God, we thank you for bringing us together tonight. Thank you for the good weather. Lord, as these men and women who are running just go through about the county governance and the city governance and all that stuff, just let them be led by you, Lord. Father God, we just pray that everyone gets home safely tonight, and just give us all a good evening. Thank you. Amen. If you'll face the flag, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. You may be seated. We would like to welcome our elected officials in the audience. We have Rusk County Judge Joel Hill, Rusk County Treasurer Andy Vinson, Rusk County Commissioners Randy Gott, Greg Gibson, Rusk County JP Precinct 5, Judge Jana Ross Enlow, City of Henderson Mayor Buzz Fullen, City Manager Jay Abercrombie, City Council District 1 Stephen Strong, and then Henderson Police Department Police Chief Chad Taylor. I want to thank you all for attending tonight. We would again also like to welcome our audience listening and viewing on KWRD Radio and East Texas Today. We do have just a few races that we're going to go through today. I'd like to start things off a little bit differently. We have had a District Judge Clay Gossett serve in that capacity for 28 years. We do have David Hill running on the ballot. I would like to give David just a few minutes to introduce himself, and if he'll make his way to the podium, and we'll go from there.
Good evening. I'm really thankful to the Chamber for giving us this opportunity to come out and meet and greet everyone, and I thank all you folks for showing up. For the first time in 28 years, where were you 28 years ago? For the first time in 28 years, we're going to be electing another district judge. I'm David Hill, and I'm running for that position. Our present judge, Judge Clay Gossett, has announced his retirement, and it'll be effective at the end of this year, December 31st. I've been following him around like a little intern the last couple of months to see what I can learn, and I can learn a lot from him, I hope. I know I can. Judge Gossett's long service has actually caused some eyebrow raising when I've been introducing myself around to say that I'm seeking this office of district judge. And I'll notice some people kind of pull back, and what I've gotten a couple of times is, our judge is Judge Clay Gossett. I said, yeah, that's right. So why are you running against him? And I said, well, I'm really not. Well, he's a good judge. I don't know why you'd want to run against him. And I said, he is. He's a great judge. Well, then explain. I said, he's retiring. He's retiring at the end of this year, and the election is all this year, and I won't take office if I'm able to win until January. Are you sure about that? Yes, I really am sure. So anyway, when that happens, 28 years, it's longer than any judge has ever served our county in the history of the county. The longest serving judge ever, going back to as long as you want to go. So it's a big deal. Over 43 years ago, Karen, who's right out here in the nice red outfit, and I moved here to Henderson. When we moved here, we knew 4 people. That's all we knew. And we chose Henderson as our home, and I'm really, really glad that we did. We've had our 3 children here. We raised them in the public schools here in Henderson. They all did well after they got out of school, and it was great preparation for them for their college. And that's just one of the reasons why we love being here so much, and have all of a sudden we've been here 43 years. I attended Baylor University. I majored in accounting, and then after that I went to law school, and actually that's where I met Karen, not at law school, but I met her at Baylor. When I graduated from Baylor, we moved out here almost immediately, and I began practicing law here and have been doing it ever since. I want you to know that I take this position of district judge that I seek very seriously. It is not a political position. There's not a set of Republican law books or a set of Democratic law books. The law is the law. There's not a Democratic criminal code, and there's not a Republican criminal code. There's just a criminal code. Same way with the family law, and same way with all of our laws. Judges don't take polls, to decide an issue. A judge can't take a side, but the judge must be fair and impartial and equitable to everyone when making a decision. So basically, a judge has to call balls and strikes as that judge sees them, no matter who the parties are. And those of you that have been judges in here know exactly what I'm talking about, and I know that's a difficult task. And I pledge to you that's what I will do. I'm going to seek to do exactly that. It's going to be important, I think, for me on some tough things to call on the guidance and the wisdom and the discernment that I might receive from some prayer and from God. And I will be glad to do that. So I seek your vote, and I cherish your encouragement, and I thank you all for coming out and being involved tonight.
At this time, if the Republican Party chair folks will make their way to the stage, we'll go ahead and get things set up for that. We're going to start with a 3-minute introduction by each of them, and we'll start with Charlie Williamson.
Oh, that moves. Hello and good evening. Sorry, I'm not moving real well. I had a little surgery about a month ago, so I'm still in the recovery process a little bit. But it's good to be here. It's good to see everybody here. I became chairman, I think, in 14, somewhere along in there. First time I've ever had an opponent. Looking forward to that. We've, I think, been able to do some good things. When I took office, we had a Democrat or two still elected in Rusk County. We do not have that anymore. Every elected official is a Republican. We've worked with the Commissioners Court and other elected officials to enhance our voting systems, to become a vote center county where people can vote at any location on election day. We've done quite a bit to push the voting process forward with new technologies and things that are out and available. And I'm very proud of that. And I'm very proud of our Commissioners Court and all the elected officials in Rusk County for being on board with that, and look forward to maybe another year or two of trying to push that forward.
Sure. Sherry Harrell is also running for the Republican Party chair. I'll give you 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Sherry Harrell, and I've been a Rusk County resident for almost 30 years now. Like you, I'm an average citizen who realized rather than complaining about the government, I needed to get actively involved so I can have a voice in what's happening. I'm not backed by anyone other than residents who want to be active in their community and to help restore our county to actively participating in shaping policy based on our community standards. I want to help engage our community and notice that there's a lack of involvement in our county from the conservative side. I started doing research, and Convention of States was my springboard for further educating myself on the levels of government. And in doing this, I learned how important the precinct level was. It's vital to our community. And I realized without an aggressive grassroots movement, involvement in Rusk County could become irrelevant. Many of our statutory duties are not being fulfilled. For example, per our party bylaws, our county executive committee is supposed to meet a minimum of 4 times a year, and that hasn't happened in several years. Currently, Rusk County has 22 precincts, but we only have 4 precinct chairs. And we've already become engaged, and we've had 10 people to file their candidacy. Anyway, and we've had at least 3 more step up for this. I also, in going around the county, couldn't figure out which precinct I was in. So I had my daughter develop me an app to where when I'm traveling, I can see exactly which precinct I'm in. And also, if you want to find out which precinct you're in, the only way that I know of is calling the elections office or looking on your voter ID card. So, but I can look it up now by putting in an address, and it will tell us what precinct you're in. I believe in working hard and following through with any job that I take on, and I want to work hard for you. I want to be your county chair, and that I promise I will work hard and try to strengthen the party here in the county.
We did beforehand take questions from the community. All questions were sent in to the Chamber of Commerce, and the Legislative Committee took a look at those questions and fine-tuned some of those questions. For the question and answer section, we've just got a couple of questions for y'all. We'll give you each 2 minutes to respond, and then a 30-second rebuttal by each if you would like to take it. So 2 minutes on the questions. Our first question goes directly to describe how you would go about recruiting and supporting the candidates here in Rusk County. Charlie Williamson, I'll give you the first mic.
With recruiting specifically, you have to have somebody who's interested in serving. And I think we've had that over the past few years. There's several sitting around this room that have recruited themselves, and we've helped grow them past the primary. Now, I don't get involved in primary elections. If they have an opponent, they have to win the primary, and then we support the Republican candidate, whomever they may be. But Rusk County has been very fortunate over the past few years that to have self-recruited a lot of outstanding candidates, Randy Galt, Greg Gibson, David Hill, the sheriff, Andy Vinson. I'm leaving out a lot of people. I'm just looking around the room and who I can identify sitting here. But that is the main way that we have done it in the past here, and it has seemed to be very effective. And then working with them after they've been in office to support them in their new endeavors.
Thank you, sir. Sherry, again, we're talking about recruiting and supporting candidates, and what role would you play in that recruiting and supporting candidates?
Well, I would want to talk to all of them and learn what their positions are in life, what their goals are, and be kind of like a job interview, I suppose. And anyway, and then help them as far as I could in their candidacy.
Okay. Our next question is the overall for those people who aren't necessarily running for office or have that political taste of wanting that office seat or whatever. How would you go about stimulating the GOP base for the county, for Rusk County? Stimulating the GOP base for Rusk County, if you'll speak on that.
Well, obviously, 2024 is going to be a different election than 2 years ago because the president's on the ballot. Presidential elections always stimulate voter turnout and voter interest, much more so than gubernatorial elections. So I think we will automatically see a large voter turnout in March, but more especially come November when the actual vote takes place. We've seen that historically since I've been chairman. There's a very strong Republican base here that is very consistent at voting, and that base will turn out again in November, much larger than it even will in March, and carry the Republicans on to victory in Rusk County.
Thank you, Charlie. Sherry, what would you do about stimulating the GOP base for the county, for Rusk County specifically?
Well, the main thing is working on the precinct chairs. I believe if we have precinct chairs that are familiar with their own community and that we can get together and make phone calls and have meetings, like to have educational meetings and just get-togethers, I think that we could pull this community together.
Thank you both. At this time, these are your candidates for the Republican Party chair. We have incumbent Charlie Williamson and Sherry Harrell. Thank you both.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to ask members for the Precinct 3 Constable race. We have incumbent Rusty Hughes and Micah Busby. Rusty Hughes, you have 3 minutes for an opening.
All right. First of all, I'll just say I'm thankful to those that are in attendance today, either digitally, radio, or in person. It's good to be informed so you make the right decision. As he said, my name is Rusty Hughes. I'm currently your constable in Rusk County Precinct 3, the Mount Enterprise area. I was fortunate to be appointed to that position by Commissioner Greg Gibson after the unfortunate death of Kenneth Miley. As far as my background, I consider myself a native Rusk Countyan. Other than being born in a Tyler hospital, I've been here most of my life. I was raised in the Overton, New London area by my mother and father, Vernon and Delilah Hughes. In 1989 is when I first got into law enforcement. Cecil West hired me in the jail, and I was a jailer for him for approximately 6 months. And then he was gracious enough to send me to the academy. In 1990, I graduated from the East Texas Police Academy in Kilgore, and I was fortunate enough to be valedictorian in my class. I worked on a patrol for Cecil for about 2 years, and then he promoted me into the Criminal Investigation Division. Did that for approximately 3 years. And in 1992, I met and married my wife, and then in 1995, had 2 very large life-changing experiences. My one and only daughter, Ainsley, was born, and then 3 weeks later, I reported to Austin for the DPS recruit school. After 26 weeks in Austin, I come back to Rusk County, and I was a highway patrolman here for about 9 years, and decided I needed to do something different. And I promoted into our criminal investigation division. I went to Mount Pleasant for about 1.5 years, and then came back to Henderson, working out of the Tyler and Longview offices, but living in Henderson. I retired from DPS this past August 31st, and then 5 days later, or 4 days later, was appointed constable in Precinct 3. As far as my experience that I bring to the job, I've had the opportunity to work crimes against persons, properties, juveniles. With DPS as a CID agent, I worked organized crime, narcotics, federal drug conspiracies. The last 5 years of my tenure with DPS, in 2018, I went to Austin for 10 weeks, and I was become a polygraph examiner. So I spent the last 5 years of my time with DPS as a interview specialist and a polygraph examiner until my retirement. Those are just some of the things that I bring with me to the constable job. There's much more training and stuff that I obtained at the sheriff's office and with DPS. I'm also a certified hostage negotiator. I was a member of our critical incident response team, where we'd go out when we'd have officer-involved shootings or deaths and work with the families and involved officers and things like that. I thank you again for being here, and I would ask for your support. Thank you.
Just a quick question, Charlie. I'm sorry, Rusty. Just a quick question, Rusty Hughes. For those listening online and stuff with KWRD Radio, can you go into a little bit more of what all's involved in a constable for Rusk County?
Constable in Rusk County or across the state, but I'll focus on Rusk County mainly because that's what we're concerned with today. It's not any different than any law enforcement job. It just comes with some extra responsibilities. A constable has the same duties of arrest and things like that. The authority is a sheriff or sheriff's deputy, things like that. But in Rusk County, the constable is basically, for lack of a better word, they're married to a justice of the peace precinct. In Precinct 3, I'm very fortunate to work with Judge Shannon Berkeley and her wonderful staff, and we work hand in hand. The constable bailiffs their court, and he also serves any warrants or papers coming through that court requested by the judge. And that's what makes a constable a little bit different than some of your normal police officers. We still have the same authority with traffic and things like that.
Okay, thank you. If you'd like, you have 2 minutes if you'd like to go ahead with a closing statement.
Thank you for being here and being in attendance and actually caring about what's going on in your community. Having been raised in Rusk County, started my law enforcement career in Rusk County, I'm very, very thankful to be back and serving these people. They have been very, very good to me, and I think with any law enforcement officer, You have to have a heart of service. It's almost like a ministry in itself. And these people have been good to me, and I look forward to serving them for many, many years in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Rusty. Will our candidates for State Representative, House District 11, make their way to the podium? We have incumbent Travis Clardy and Joanna Schaffner. I don't believe she made. We'll ask you some questions anyways, Travis. I'll tell you what, you're pretty tall. You make me look shorter if you'll go on up to the stage.
I'll do as I'm told.
Again, this is for the State Representative House District 11 race. We have incumbent Travis Clardy. You'll have 3-minute opening session.
Very good. Well, Mike, thank you for having us in there. Bonnie and the Chamber, thank you for hosting this event. This is one of my favorite events that we do in campaign season. Rusk County has been very, very good to us, and I hope those of you out there think that I've been very good to Rusk County. David, I enjoyed your talk. I can't quite call you Your Honor yet, but I've known David for years. Actually, I was practicing law, and we knocked heads quite a few times together back in the day. But Judge Goss has done a great job. You will as well. But the memory lane, the times I've spent here in Rusk County as a practicing lawyer, but now as your state representative. I love this community. I love this town. Love this county. We've done a lot of good work here. I think about the airport projects. I can think about some of the highway projects we've gone through. Talking about the elections that Mr. Williamson mentioned. When we fought and got back where we can have our remote voting at 4 different locations in each precinct so people can vote locally. I've really enjoyed this working when we got into it with the Rusk County equalization tax, which we were able to eliminate. It was an unnecessary, unneeded tax, and had a lot of help with my good buddy Dale. We got that done with Hedrick, Seaborough, Richards in the back. I'm looking, it's like old home week looking out there. One thing I'm very glad you showed up when I've seen, has anybody gotten any mailers or anything about this campaign? It's going, yeah, I'm a little upset with my wife Judy. There's the one out there where I got the crown and my fur coat, and told her if I'm going to be the king, she needs to start referring to me as Your Royal Highness. I hadn't quite got her there yet. But it's been, we've never seen a campaign like this. And you say, well, why is all this money being spent? The forces that are behind my opponent are extraordinarily well funded. Texans for Lawsuit Reform have lined up and are paying for a campaign. Then you got 4 out-of-state billionaire PACs that want vouchers. Folks, that's what this race is boiled down to. Are we going to support our rural East Texas schools and our teachers and our kids? And are we going to continue to honor the Constitution of Texas, which requires us to provide a free, fair, and equitable public education for all kids in Texas? Or are we going to do what the billionaires want us to do so they can make more billions of dollars? I'm going to go into, I'm sure, in this question a little bit. I hope I get a question on that subject, Mike. But look, it's been an honor and a cherish the privilege to be your representative. I want to do that job again. I've got 2 years left on the Sunset Commission. I want to finish my tour duty there. We have a lot of work still to do. I'm proud of what we've done, but we can do more things. I want to step up for Rusk County, for our law enforcement community there in the back. Russell Brown, good to see you. I tell you, it is a rogues gallery tonight. But it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to have this campaign over and done with. I'm tired of being called everything but a Christian white man and seeing all these nasty pictures. I started out being the Grinch, and now I'm the poker player, so who knows? But we're going to keep soldiering on because, folks, I'm here for you. I don't answer to a bunch of out-of-state billionaires. I don't answer to a bunch of people that live in River Oaks in Houston. I live amongst you. We've been here in East Texas, raised our family. I love you people. I love this community. I love this district, and I love the state of Texas, and I look forward to serving you again.
Thank you, Travis. As you know, our House District 11, it serves 6 counties: Nacogdoches, Newton, Panola, Rusk, Sabine, and Shelby counties. And definitely Rusk is the second largest of those 6. I kind of want to let's start with some infrastructure aspects. District 11, just south of the I-20 congestion, and then even north of that, the I-30 congestion. But we are starting to feel that congestion moving north and south. Can you talk to us a little bit about the status of the 69 expansion?
Sure, it's progressing well. One of the things I was able to do with Senator Nichols' support, we have Senator Hughes for Rusk County, but Senator Nichols has Nacogdoches. We moved up in the priority to complete that part of the corridor of the I-69 corridor. So several have been completed. Nac and Lufkin will now have that part completed. We'll continue with that up through Texarkana and out of the state. It's going to take some time. What we see, I hope we see, Mike, is that people are looking at towns like Henderson, that this is a place you can raise a family, you can build a business, you can do things. I see John Cloutier there in the back dealing with rail issues, talking about infrastructure. I really appreciate Judge Hale being here and the commissioners. These are forward-thinking leaders that we have in Rusk County and are looking at the future needs that we have. I think Henderson is very well strategically placed, access to rail lines, access to highways going north, south, east, west. I really think I'm very bullish on the future of Henderson and Rusk County because of those things. And we're also blessed with other natural resources. With the beautiful weather, folks can, be out of work and in 5 minutes be at the deer blind or be on the dove stand or whatever you want to do. And it's such a beautiful place. It's only matched by the beauty of the people that live here. That's something I've come to appreciate in the times I've been around Rusk County, whether I'm in Tatum or I'm up in South Kilgore, or I'm in Henderson or, Mount Enterprise, where I happen to be. It's just a lovely place with lovely people. And we want to cater to them, and we want to take care of their needs. I want to recognize somebody special in the audience tonight, a couple of people actually. First and foremost, the First Lady of House District 11, Judy Clardy, sitting there next to. And sitting next to her, a couple of tall fellows, my sons, Gus and John, and David. They're actually now my law partners as well. So I'm glad to have them visiting over. But somebody many of you know well, and that's Jerry Jones. My district director's here, and her son Caleb's with us. Jerry's going through a tough time. We all are. And Jerry just lost her father. And so I want you to keep her in your thoughts and prayers. This has been a difficult weekend, but they're a strong Christian family. And just so keep them in your thoughts and prayers. There's many of you, I look around this room, that Jerry Jones has reached out to, and you've had a problem with the state. You've had some agency giving you a bad time. You've had problems getting things accomplished. You don't know where to go and how to turn. There's not a better person in the state of Texas than Jerry Jones in working on constituent issues and helping you solve those problems and go through those minefields. And whether that's working with the judge or it's working with Jana Enlow in the back with the courts or Andy dealing with treasury issues, whatever those things are. She's a valuable resource, and we've got a great team together. That's part of what we do. Part of what's been able for me to be able to be successful is the hard work and diligence and dedication that my staff has. Dylan Castro's here, my ledge director, now my campaign manager, and Britton Davis, my chief. But they do a great job, and I just want to thank you, Jerry, and again, know you're in our thoughts and prayers.
Thank you, Travis. Sticking with the infrastructure topic, a more direct impact here to Rusk County and especially to Henderson would be the 79 trunk route extension up from Austin. Can you talk us through a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can. There's the 79 route. Now, when I go to Austin, I go out of Nacogdoches. 79 is probably my least favorite way to get to Austin. There's something about that drive, it takes forever. But there have been expansions of that. We've tried to improve safety. What drives transportation dollars in Texas is primarily safety issues. That's a big thing that helps rural Texas get its fair share. That expansion is going to continue. And let me, on a different side of town, I want to talk about the 315 as you go from Mount Enterprise over to Carthage. Mark, I see you here. And that's one of the most dangerous roads we have in East Texas. And we're putting things, we just got a light approved on the Carthage side of it. But we've got to invest that money. We've got to have the money to spend in rural Texas because the city is going to get their money. That's one thing I've told folks here. People say they're against toll roads. We're not against toll roads in the city. The users pay to use them, but if they aren't able to build toll roads in the cities, that money that we get now for our rural roads is going to move and go to the cities. So our best way to protect our rural roads is to make sure we get our safety dollars on the 79 expansion. Those safety concerns are there. Hopefully eliminate a few lights and stops and get some loops around the town so the road's a little quicker. But that's a long-term project. That's one frustration I've learned in government. TxDOT time, road engineer time, they're great people, they work hard, but what we think, when they say they're going to have something done and they turn a shovel in 3 years, they think they're on a light speed. It's just a different world and mindset when it comes to road construction. But we are blessed in Texas to have the best road system in the country, and I think, frankly, in the world. Go visit some of our neighboring states if you doubt that. But again, part of my job is to make sure we focus in on those roads, the construction that's going to help our communities grow, help us get our food, fuel, and fiber products to market. And then also have folks come and visit and realize, man, I'd like to live in a town as beautiful as Henderson.
Right. Sticking with infrastructure, but a little bit different vein of that. The third largest coal-fired plant is phasing out here. That's no secret. Rusk County is actively working to kind of replace some of those tax revenues with industry, specifically on our local rail line access. What can you do specifically to help Rusk County kind of help churn that and help bring businesses and look at building up that section of our infrastructure?
Well, the great thing for me, I've got great people to work with. I can go to Bonnie Geddes with the Chamber. I can go to John Clary with the Economic Development Corporation. Very proactive, very out there pushing. Jay Abercrombie, the city manager's here. You know, we've got a great team in this city. This community works so well together. So it's for me, it's an easy product to sell. It's easy to go to also say we need these things. Also, I think we've had some visionary work done by John there in the back, because this spur line, the rail line that we're looking to develop, is really going to be an incubator. I think it's really going to drive industry to Henderson. And Henderson has a proud tradition of manufacturing, of building, back to the brick plants and other things. Oil and gas industry here has a great core of key industries, and it makes sense to locate here. Also access to the highways. So what I do specifically when we get an issue, we did this working with John and working with the airport manager with the airport expansion. It was important that I was able to go down and have relationships and work with TxDOT Aviation. There's a separate department for deals with rail or deals with aviation or deals with highways. Had to have those working relationships and the knowledge I have with them and the experience working with them. It's me being on the Sunset Commission is a very important post. I'm one of 5 House members, 5 senators, and two citizen members. Those are the things that allow us to develop, or for me to have learned the inner workings of infrastructure issues in Texas and who the players are, who the people are that we need to talk to make sure we move this forward. There's a lot of people, you're going to find this hard to believe, but when our Texas budget's a third of $1 trillion with a T, around $330 billion biennial budget, a lot of folks show up in Austin looking for money and looking for their project to be the #1 project. So it is a competitive environment. And the ability to work with people, to have the relationships, to be able to talk knowledgeably about the subject matter, and then have people like you, the leaders, the community, the citizens of Rusk County and Henderson, to be able to come there and help me. And so I don't have to sell it all by my lonesome, because I've got great people who have a great story to tell, who are persuasive and are absolutely dedicated to this town and excited about the future. So I think we bring a whole lot of positive energy to it, and we've seen a lot of great results in the things we've done here in Henderson. And so I expect that to continue, and whether that be on any kind of infrastructure. The one infrastructure I want us to focus on, and I know Jay's focused on this as city manager, we've had a real we're going to have a crisis. You're going to see this story over and over and over. Our water infrastructure, our sewer systems are going to fail. They are timed to fail. Their mechanical systems, the pipes, the clay, we saw it happen in Odessa. That's going to happen around this country. One of the things I'm pushing for is an additional infrastructure fund to help our cities. If you want to lower our taxes, the state has a huge budget revenue, a surplus. We can use those funds, put them in a fund where our mayors, our counties can access funds at much lower rates, and be able to get grants and or loans at favorable rates that are not going to burden our small towns and our small counties, our rural Texas that I represent, so that they can have access to those things and not bankrupt, not jeopardize other things that need to happen within our towns. It's the way, if we can do that with the state, then our state officials don't have to come back to you and say, we need to raise our tax rate if we need to build a jail or we need to do other things that are necessary. So that's something I think is very important for us, is to focus on infrastructure, because by the state helping cities and counties afford the things that we need as we grow and develop and repair and maintain, that keeps you from having to raise local taxes. And I think everybody's paying about it all they want to or need to pay in property taxes.
Thank you, Travis. Just outside of our district, just to the west, sits some land that everybody has said is going to be Columbia Lake. So if you could, I know it's outside of your jurisdiction, but if you could kind of give us an update on that, with it being just this side of Jacksonville, it is going to have an impact here in Henderson and Rusk County. So if you'll kind of give us an update on that.
I will, and that's although I no longer represent Cherokee County. I lost Cherokee to the west and added the 4 counties to the east. I've worked, I can't tell you the amount of time I've worked trying to push Lake Columbia through. That has been a long time project, been on the board for 30 years. Although I no longer represent where the lake would be, I do have a direct representation of the stakeholders of that lake, because many of the stakeholders are our cities and water supply corporations, including Henderson, including Nacogdoches, including other stakeholders in this area. I think there's an opportunity for us to do things. We have to prove purpose and need for a new reservoir to be built, but we do have the SWIFT funds in place. That was on, we reviewed that in Sunset. SWIFT, the State Water Infrastructure Fund, and other funds, Texas Water Development Board. So the money's there for us to do it. I believe we can prove the need, but it's been a difficult task to get it through. It's a pretty complicated issue when you get into it. Do we need it? Absolutely. Everybody knows we're going to need more water in Texas in 30 years. I think we've got some things to work. ANRA is the lead agency, the Angelina Natchez River Authority. They would be the operator, and so some things are in the works behind the scenes to make that happen. I want to see that lake built. One day I want to see the glittering waters on Lake Columbia and see what that's going to do for this part of the world. Again, it'd be a great tourism attraction for Cherokee and Rusk counties, and it would provide long-term needs. Henderson and Tyler specifically, and Nacogdoches, have done a very good job of thinking through water needs for their base. I think Henderson's in a very, very good place for long-term water. That's forward thinking again, but let's keep thinking out a little farther. We need that reservoir. It makes a lot of sense. It's in a place. It's the Mud Creek water plane, and one of the fast.
The Corps of Engineer approved and everything.
It was and it's not. And this is a longer conversation than a 3-minute answer, but there have been some glitches with the Corps. That's been reworked, taken back up. There's got to be new engineering done, so it's not an inexpensive proposition. But I think we can push this through with the right concerted effort. But right now, we're going to have to deal with the Corps, and as we all know, the Corps is a federal agency, and right now the person occupying 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue doesn't care a whole lot for Texas. It doesn't care a whole lot about our energy sector, and doesn't care a whole lot about helping us get nice things. So, there's something we can all do in November that might be able to help us, might help us secure our border and do a whole lot of things that need to happen when our last president's our next president.
That'll work. Thank you. Speaking about our energy sector, specifically about our grid, coal, and renewables, here in Rusk County, we seem to fare a lot better with the most recent winter storm than we did with the one a few years back. Aside from this not being as deep of a hard freeze this time, what would you attribute the better uptime to this on this time around?
Yeah, we didn't do some good changes. I don't want to act like this, that the grid is fixed. We have introduced a large number of additional megawatt availability, but that's largely been done through renewables, both solar and wind. I'm an all of the above person when it comes to energy policy. But we do not need to be overly reliant upon renewables, because when the wind doesn't blow, it doesn't work, and when the sun doesn't shine, it doesn't work. That's why I've been such a strong supporter of Martin Lake and the plant there, and the coal-fired plant. It is reliable. I'm hoping that we see an uptick, and I know in my alma mater, Abilene Christian University, we're letting UT and Texas A&M and Georgia Tech, hold our coat, but we're building the first nuclear plant in Texas in a long time on the campus of ACU as a really innovative project. We need to go towards we need thermal, meaning nuclear, gas, natural gas fired, coal plant. We need all of the above. But the challenge on this most recent storm, one, it was not nearly as deep. I think the players were encouraged and have done things to harden their grid, and meaning the facility operators in Texas. And so we were better prepared. We had more renewables online because though it was cold, we did have good solar. Battery storage technology has improved dramatically in the last few years. That was something that wasn't really good 5-10 years ago, but now we're able to store energy and introduce it onto the market. So yes, we're better. But the problem with the challenge we face as Texans, every day, 1,000 to 1,500 people move here. I tell folks all the time, inside every American, there's a Texan trying to get out. And there's people moving here all the time. And when they come, they don't bring the first electron of energy. They don't bring a school book with them. They don't bring a bucket of asphalt for roads. They don't bring a gallon of water. And that's a stress. Every year we add the equivalent of the Fort Worth Independent School District in the number of students in Texas from internal growth and people moving here. That's a real challenge for us. And so you never fix the power situation. We know we're going to need more in the future. And that's going to be the challenge. The one thing I'm absolutely opposed to is any thought or concept that we're going to take our Texas grid, the ERCOT grid, and merge it or make it part of the other grids or something else. I like the fact that Texas has its own grid. It has served us well. We saw problems with it, but we've stepped up. One of the first things we did is we made sure the folks who are going to be running ERCOT and running that part of the grid are going to be Texas based. Too late, we figured out we had a bunch of carpetbaggers that were tied into the big industries who were going to determine how much money they could take out of Texas. We said, we're not going to do it anymore. We're putting Texans in charge of Texas. I think there's an analogy there I might make in a few minutes about how this campaign is going.
Thank you, Travis. When you're talking about people moving in, the equivalent of a 4A school, I believe you said, it kind of brings up what's happening on the southern border. What are your thoughts on the state of our southern border?
It's a train wreck. I mean, it is as bad as the images that you see on television. I've been down there. I've met with the folks, talked to the colonel of the TBS. And it is I've talked to folks on property down there, and they've got to where once upon a time they'd lock their doors and they went away from their ranch or in South Texas. Now they leave the doors open. Why? Because if they don't, the doors are kicked in, the windows. We are not able to enforce our laws and protect the sovereignty of this nation. I think I have voted for every security measure, every increase in funding possible to secure the border and support our Texas National Guard and to support our troops, support our troopers. I appreciate, I don't know if he's still in here, but when, going down to the border, if you were a trooper, you've been made several trips down there. And it's a waste of time. It's really hurting our law enforcement capabilities here because of the amount of time money we're spending down there, but we've got to do it. It is not negotiable. The most fundamental role of the government is to protect the shores and borders of our country and to protect and defend our sovereignty. I appreciate the fact that people want to come here, but we have a duty to our country and to the folks that are yet to come to protect this country. And, unfortunately, we had a very strong policy in place under President Trump. And if somebody asked me, what are we going to do to fix the border? I said, we're going to reelect President Trump, and we're going to reinstate those border policies because they work. Plain and simple, they work. We can do that. But the one import that we cannot take, Mexico is our largest trading partner. We can't forget that. It's vital to our economy we have that relationship and that we can control the border and eliminate the presence of the cartels on the border. But we've got to be able to have that flow of economic activity. Texas is by far the largest single trade partner. But the one import we can't afford is lawlessness and corruption. And when we have courts here, the thought of a judge being on the take or being corrupt is foreign to our experience in Texas. That's the import that we cannot afford to have come across from the cartels of Mexico. We've got to keep lawlessness and that on the other side, and our guys are doing that. But it is a long, hard fight. Texas is doing its part. Texas will take care of Texas. I know from talking to some of the reports I get from the state, a lot of the activity has shifted over into New Mexico, Arizona, California. We are being the most obstinate and difficult to get through, but it is a real problem. I will continue to stand up for Texas, continue to fund that, but we've got to get our border back under control.
Speaking of that, in that same vein, those other border states, what are some things that they can be doing that are either helping or hindering Texas efforts?
Well, we could have a better cooperation among the states. I have supported legislation and actually think we filed legislation dealing with an interstate compact under Article 2 of the federal Constitution. You can contract with the 4 states. We do it with water rights for the Colorado River and those states, et cetera. But we have fundamental differences of opinion. I mean, if you want to see how to do things not in the Texas way, go to the other side of the Mexican border and go see what they're doing in California. That is not a model that we want to emulate. You can nearly say, what are they doing in California? We want to do the exact opposite. So there's not much cooperation between those states, same with Arizona and New Mexico. But I would like to think that we could get leaders of the states together and work together to come up with a compact where we can do some things with immigration policy that we can do as a compact, Second Amendment compact of states. I just don't know whether as I understand the politics of particularly New Mexico and particularly California, I don't see us finding much common ground. So until we get a good federal response, which this should be, I'm not expecting much help from California. What I am counting on is the people of Texas to keep electing folks like me to go back to Austin, and we keep stepping up and taking care of Texas.
Yeah. Moving, you alluded to it earlier, the vouchers, school financing, and accountability. How do we legislatively provide accountability without vouchers?
How do we provide accountability for our public schools without vouchers, or or would vouchers have accountability? I'm not sure I got the question.
Either way you'd like to answer it.
Okay. Well, let's talk about vouchers. The Bard once said, a rose is a rose. A rose by any other name is still a rose. Well, a voucher is a voucher is a voucher. They may want to call it money follows a child. They may want to call it this is educational savings accounts or something else. They've rebranded it. And those of you that are our age have remembered they've been pushing for vouchers for decades, since the 90s at least. They've been trying to get vouchers through. And why? It's pretty obvious to me when you see what's going on in this current campaign. And by the way, I'm not alone, folks. I'm not the only one being called names. There's some fine members, Gary Van Dever up the road in Texarkana, Drew Darby over in San Angelo, Jay Dean, Bales. There's a bunch of us that stuck together and said, we're going to support our rural public schools. And we're not going to take vouchers in Texas because they are fundamentally destructive. We tried very desperately hard to say, we can do a plan that's going to help, and let's target on the populations they say they want to help, which is special needs kids and kids that are in inner city schools that are failing schools. Taking a step, an incremental step, and trying this in 2 years and see how it works out was unacceptable to our governor. He made that very clear. He vetoed my bill and many others of other members until we would change our vote. The bill had nothing to do with vouchers or education, but it got vetoed, saying if you'll change your position on vouchers, we'll reconsider your bill. That doesn't set right with me. Likewise, if you don't do what I say and vote for vouchers, well, then I'm going to find a candidate and I'm going to fund a campaign against you. Well, this is one time Governor Abbott actually did what he said he would do. And so here we go. I think Judy, and by the way, on our table over here, Judy's prepared a pretty good little piece of paper. So for all of you get these mailers and texts and stuff, where the money come from is right over there. It's explained very clearly. I would like for somebody to explain to me why a bunch of billionaires from Michigan and Kansas and California and where's in Pennsylvania, why they care all of a sudden so much about East Texas education. And I'll tell you why, folks. This is because I'm between them and more billions of dollars. The bill that was proposed, one, we couldn't afford. It had all the bells and whistles. It was going to do stuff it was never going to be able to do. But the governor made very clear, I'm not going to allow teachers to get a pay raise until vouchers get passed. And not just a trial or a model program, but full-throated universal vouchers. I've mentioned Arizona. Google Arizona vouchers and look at the articles that pop up. It is about to bankrupt that state. It is not sustainable. When we got the fiscal note on this bill and looked at it, it went up to $60 billion in the 4th year. I was getting calls from some of the most conservative members and friends and colleagues I serve with. Matt Schaefer over in Tyler, he called up with his hair on fire because he said, we can't do this. There's no way we can afford this. And that was the universal approach. You drill down into the bill, you find out, well, and you say, well, why would they care? The bill was set up that there's an 8% management fee paid to an outside company. It's not going to be managed by the state. We're going to take 8% haircut off the top. Not a penny to a kid, not a penny to a teacher, not a penny to a school or classroom or a school district. It's going to go straight to the pockets of the companies owned by the billionaires who, guess what, are funding this campaign because they want vouchers. That's what this is about, folks. I'm standing between those billionaires and your tax dollars and your schools. And they will say anything and everything they can. I did find it kind of humorous. I got a crown and a fur coat out of it in one of the mailers, and I think now I'm gambling. I've got a gambling problem apparently by one of them. I don't know what it means. So folks, you ask yourself, where's this money coming from? Why are they here? I got this sneaky suspicion that a bunch of out-of-state billionaires who are tied into some very left-wing organizations really care about our kids in Newton or Carthage or Henderson, Carlisle, Nacogdoches. Something tells me they're in it for the money. If you want to know the truth, folks, what do? You follow the money. And the money's there, and they've been salivating for this money for years, and they think they finally got a chance to do it. I'm endorsed by a whole lot of folks. Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, that I voted against his impeachment, he's endorsed me. I'm endorsed by a bunch of different people. The NRA, I'm A+ rated. The Farm Bureau, I met with them today. I'm endorsed by Wayne Christian, our former state rep, now railroad commissioner. Endorsed by Don Buckingham, our GLO. They have endorsed me because we've worked together. They know me. There's a bunch of local folks doing the same. The one common denominator by the people that are endorsing and supporting my opponent is they have all sold out to the voucher crowd. They have made that is why they are there. The single largest contribution in Texas history and maybe even American history was made to our governor for $6 million by a Pennsylvania billionaire whose ties to Chinese companies doing other things. Folks, I hate to tell you this is what it is, but this is a money grab. It is a straight running money grab. And if I thought if there were things there that I thought were going to improve educational future for Texans, I would do it. Let me ask you all this. Do we all agree on this principle that you want your tax dollars spent efficiently, fairly, and you get the best bang for your tax dollars in government service? Do we all want that? A bunch of nodding heads. On the other hand, do we want the next generation of Texans to be the smartest, best educated, best prepared generation of Texans ever? Do we all want that? Yes. This is a policy discussion. This is what we ought to be talking about. But I'll tell you what's not going to help the education system in Texas, and that is starving our teachers and starving our school districts and putting them over a barrel and forcing them to vote in deficit budgets to give their teachers pay raises in an inflationary period and say, you're not getting more money until you give me vouchers. Well, folks, I'm not endorsed by Governor Abbott. And the reason I'm not, I've been endorsed by him every other time. I've got videos of him sitting next to me saying what a great job I'm doing taking care of public education and teachers. That was 2017, 2018. Folks, I haven't changed. I'm still your state representative. I'm still the same old Trav that y'all like to pick on when I show up for the chamber banquet. But I'm going to keep fighting the good fight for our teachers and our schools, and we're going to hang in there because I know this right. I know this is right. If I thought that this would be beneficial, I would be supportive of it. If it's a good idea, it's a good idea. But if it's a bad idea, it's a bad idea. There's a reason Texas put in the Constitution in the 80s a bill that said we will not spend public tax dollars on religious private education. It's in the Constitution by amendment. The people voted for it. There's a reason they've not been able to get vouchers for 30 years. What really offends me the most about this campaign and these billionaires sending all this crap in there on your phone, sorry, I know I'm on radio, probably shouldn't have said that, but then putting this stuff out there is it's the disdain that they have for you. They think you're stupid. They think that you can't see through this. They don't think our people in East Texas are smart enough to look at the bottom of a mailer and go, who is this pack out of Alexandria, Virginia? You know, folks, y'all remember that song came out a few months back, the Rich Men North of Richmond? Y'all remember that song? Folks, they're here. That's who I'm fighting against. That's who's funding my opponent's campaign. These are the billionaire rich men north of Richmond. They don't think you know, but I know that you do. We know what this is about. I'm going to fight for you. I've got no interest other than making this district better, protecting Texas, leave this place better for two of my sons are here, but I got 4 grandchildren up the road. That's what I care about. You know, Judge Hill, not yet, but when David talks about what he wants to do, you want to give back this community. It's given so much to us, and I'm honored to serve and do that. But folks, make no mistake, this is a money grab by people who do not care one whit about Rusk County and Henderson, Texas, or our kids, or our businesses, or our future.
Thank you, Travis. One other question, kind of in the same vein. You've been a state representative for quite some time now, 10 years. One of the things that none of us thought we would ever see was a little thing called COVID. I would like to ask what the because it's across the board, across the nation, wherever you go, it's different. What's the political appetite for Texas with the COVID mandates and stuff?
Well, there's no appetite for me for it. I think, you know, look, that came up and emergency powers were enacted. Governor Abbott took those powers. Most of y'all may not know this, but the governor still wields and exercises and holds the emergency COVID powers to this day. I think that has been abused and overused. You know, we didn't know whether we were dealing with the zombie apocalypse or this was just going to be a bad cold. We weren't sure what was going on, and we took extraordinary measures. I mean, I think we were all, probably everyone in here, at some point was an idiot on their back porch with a can of Lysol spraying a box. Okay, we've learned things since then. What I've learned from this is it was a novel virus, but it's become more tolerated, and it's now just added to the other list of things that you can catch when you get a cold. I don't think it's right, though, for the government to enforce or to mandate. Not only it's not right, I think it's unconstitutional, fundamentally flawed in our way of thinking, for the government to force individuals to get vaccines. I think that's a personal decision for folks to make. I think folks should make that in concert with their physicians, their doctors, get their best information and act independently. So I don't think there's any appetite where we're going to see any COVID mandates requiring vaccines. So I don't see that happening at all. But we also don't want to be so aggressive. Well, let me back up on the healthcare thing. We've got a lot of pressing issues with healthcare in rural Texas. COVID did do one thing for us. It did prop up our hospitals because of this infusion of made-up federal money into our rural hospitals. It kept our rural hospitals open. One of the questions we had the other day at a forum in Nacogdoches when my opponent did show up was about health care and what are we going to do? COVID propped us up because that money came in. That money is now out. And so one of the things I'm happy to see here with UT Health coming into Henderson, I think that's been a very, very good thing in Rusk County to provide that quality of care and that strength of the organization. That's been an important thing. But I think we need to, you know, in all areas, we don't need the government sticking its nose into our personal business, particularly the business of your own health and your family's health. You know, I believe strongly that parents should make decisions concerning their children and their health and their education. That's why I support school choice, you know, kind of giving back that. What does that mean? If you want to homeschool, homeschool. You want to go to charter school, go to charter school. You want to go to Henderson, go to Henderson. You want to go to Carlisle, go to Carlisle. If you want to go to private school, go to private school. Just write the check. Pay for your own school. I mean, you know, the notion that all these people out here should pay for somebody else's private school education just doesn't make sense to me. It would be the largest entitlement program ever created in the state of Texas, and probably in the country. Now, I know I got off task there. We were talking about this, but vouchers have been on my brain, little Mike, and I'm not going to be able to let it go until we win this election.
Well, thank you, Travis. In closing, just want to give you 3 minutes. You can talk about vouchers again if you'd like, or you can just give us a 3-minute closing.
Do this. We've been sitting there. Y'all humor me with this. I'd like you, if you have a family member in your family that's a teacher, would you please stand up? Please just stand. We've been sitting there. There's Russell standing by. All right. If you have a member of your family that works at a school or has been on a school board or drives the bus or works in the cafeteria, stand up. If you have a family member that's a retired teacher, or grandmother, or mother, father, stand up if you have a retired teacher. Okay. Now let's stand up. If you graduated from a public school in Texas, stand up. Mark, you ought to stand up. Now, folks, look around this room. Look around this room. This is us. This is who we are. This is who we are. Y'all sit down, or you can stand up. It's your call. You know, this is who we are as people. Public schools have served our state well. Our economy is the 8th largest economy in the world, largely because we have an educated, hardworking group of Texans, and that's because of the backbone that's been provided by the constitutional requirement that our forefathers put in place that we shall have public education in Texas. It's the right thing to do. It's constitutionally required, but it's the right thing to do. We've got to stand with our teachers, and I'm so frustrated our teachers have been ignored. By the way, there's some things said in this campaign. What I'm referring to is the one big lie. Clardy voted against teacher pay raises. I heard those exact words come out of our governor's mouth when he was recently in Nacogdoches. That is nothing other than a bald-faced lie. We never had a chance to vote for teacher pay raises. Why? Because the governor would not allow the bill to come forward. When we took the vouchers out, the bill got pulled down by the bill author. Why? Because the governor was upset he didn't get his vouchers that he had promised a bunch of people he would be able to deliver. That's why we're here. So, folks, there's so many other issues. I know y'all may have heard of Allen Iverson. You know, we talking about practice. We're not talking about the game. Well, that's kind of where I am on this voucher deal. We're talking about vouchers. We're not talking about the game. We're talking about vouchers. That's what we're doing. There are so many important issues that mean so much to Texans that we need to address. And we're talking about vouchers. 90% of the people that contacted our office from January to right now have called me and said, now people living, breathing in this district said, we don't want vouchers. Please don't vote about the vouchers. Please stand with our teachers. Take care of our teachers. Take care of our kids. Don't vote for vouchers. 90%. I don't care what number they want to trot out, some poll or survey they did. You know, figures don't lie, but trust me, liars do figure. And these folks are lying to you. The fact of the matter is, Texas will be better and stronger when we decide that we're going to invest, and I chose that word carefully, not spend, but invest in education. You don't spend money, that's not an expense, that's an investment. The more we take care of our teachers and take care of our kids, the better off we'll be. Are there problems? Yes, there are. The whole notion, though, that just drives me crazy, that we got woke teachers indoctrinating kids. Maybe that's happening in Austin. I don't know. I don't represent Austin, Mike. I represent 6 rural counties in East Texas. I'll guarantee you go to Newton, Texas, they're starting every day with the Pledge of Allegiance and they're saying a prayer at the Friday night football game. The school board members are deacons at the First Baptist Church and First Methodist Church. Folks, like I said, this is us we're talking about. This is us. So I'm going to go back there and fight. I know when I signed off on that amendment, when I said we're stripping vouchers, I knew what was coming. I signed it. I printed my name where they could read it, handed it back to my colleague, John Rainey, looked at the fellows around the room that were brave enough to stand up and push back on tyranny and say, boys, I just bought myself $1 million primary. Well, according to Judy's calculations, I was about $800,000 off. So that's what's coming at me. But we're going to keep fighting this fight. And would I do it again, knowing what I know now? Absolutely. It was the right thing to do. Just like voting against the impeachment for Paxton was the right thing to do, voting against vouchers was the right thing to do. You want somebody there fighting for you, folks. That's what this election is about. Not for out-of-state billionaires. Not for a bunch of folks that think you're stupid, that you don't understand, that you're not plugged in. If you want to have a real independent voice in Austin who's going to stand up and fight, which I think I've proven that I will do, send me back. I'd appreciate your vote, appreciate your time. God bless all of you. God bless you, Jerry, and God bless Texas.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Travis, and thank you all for being here tonight. With special thanks to our candidates that participated. They do have thanks those listening and watching on KWRD Radio and the Henderson Civic Center. This concludes our event